Okay, now it's recording. So yeah, I thought we could do like three beginner course sessions. Um, I know that for somebody can be a bit boring, the beginner course, but I find it always helpful to really see together to go through the basic and then start with the advanced course, I would say. And this time I prepared lesson a bit better. So we have the repo on CodeJourneys.org. And if I find a chat, let's see which here. Oh, and the people are joining us. Cool. So this is the repo, and the repo is organized in this way. You have many branches, and master branch is always the one which is the most updated, so the latest version. And then you have steps. So step one, step two, for instance, and this I let's say I split the sessions in multiple steps. And if you can't follow me coding and then you want to try by yourself, you don't have to just see the old code, but you can check step by step what we've done together. So for instance, in the step one, the README file is short, just a few lines. It's about how to install and serve Vue.js. Then you can go on step two, and it's the same README, but with more information. And of course, also the code is different. So step by step, we add code. And today we will do together step one and two really fast. And then together we'll work on step three. At the end of the session, I will commit and push the changes. So you will find step three online. I hope this could be helpful for you and help you to code with me. So yeah, let's start together, and let's start from the homepage of Vue.js. So as you know, Vue.js is it's a framework, it's a JavaScript framework, and it's one of the most famous. And I'm pretty sure you know also like Angular and React. Currently, those three frameworks are the most used in for front development. And there are some slightly difference between those frameworks. Vue.js is pretty cool because the library is small, so it's really a tiny library, and you don't need anything to use it. You can just include the Vue.js library file into your HTML code, and Vue.js is working. Of course, there are other ways to use it, and as you know, when you use Vue.js, usually you use the Vue CLI, so you use Webpack and a lot of other tools, but it's just because we want to do it. Otherwise, would be just enough to include a file in the HTML and use it. And the Vue.js core team maintains three libraries. One is Vue.js, so the main library. Then Vuex, which is the state management, so the store. And then the router. When saying that are three different libraries, that's very important, because you can use Vue.js and Vuex and the router, Vue router if you want, but you don't have to. So if you don't need routing, if you don't need a store, you can just use Vue.js. With the new version, the version 3, which is really available, since like a couple of days, you can even use just part of the application, so just like the reactivity core and other stuff. That's cool. For instance, in Angular, that's not possible. Angular has built in the, let's say, kind of state management and the router, and you have to use it because it's just built in. React is different because it's not a framework, it's a library. So even React, if you want to use state management or router or other thing, you have to use other libraries. made for React, work very good for React, but are just added libraries. Vue.js, you can be sure that the core team will maintain routing, store, and the core library for you. That's very important, and that's one of something important to say during an interview if they ask you about Vue.js, because it's reliable. Core team is maintaining for you core stuff. And yeah, that's one thing. And the second thing is that Vue.js has a powerful reactivity core inside. What does it mean, reactivity? There's a special part of the application which keeps track of the variables you're using, so the object and all the variables you're using. And every time something is changing the values of these variables, then in a reactive way, Vue.js is updating all the dependencies and telling you, hey, something happened, I have a new value. Something important for interviews, uh, some people ask if Vue.js or React is reactive, and usually people answer React, but that's just wrong. So React has no reactivity system inside. Vue.js, yes. So in React, if you change some values, then you have to track them and update all the dependencies. And Vue.js is doing that for you, and that's very comfortable for us. So you can find all the information on, of course, on the website, and yeah, also the installation process. But we will go through it together. So in order to install Vue.js, you have to install first the. I will open the step one. You have to install the Vue CLI. So I'm using the version 4.5.6. It's the latest one. You don't have to specify. We'll install for you the latest one. I'm using npm. You can use yarn. It's more or less the same. You can check the documentation on the website. And you have to run npm install global Vue CLI. At this point, you have the Vue CLI accessible everywhere in the application. So sorry, in your console. And
Can I
so,
ask,
sure, sorry.
this npm install global, will it affect my other Vue projects because it's a new version? Is it just, you
Mhm.
know, some frameworks, there are big changes and
Yeah. So the point is, if you install something globally,
yeah.
then the project are not tracking anymore the version of the CLI. And sometimes, if you work in special projects, you want to have everything encapsulated in an environment. So you're sure that you're using the same CLI, same core library, and so on.
Mhm.
For testing or just website development for learning purposes, you don't have to do it. You can easily use
Old version.
install globally. Or with npx, you can manage the version and check it. Uh, so that's it. For learning purposes, it's fine to have it globally. But even for you, I mean, just if you work in a special project, then okay, because maybe
Yeah, yeah. So I have special project now on my computer, so
yeah,
I don't want to mess with it up. So I
exactly.
just don't make it global, but just normal
Yeah,
installation.
and you can use it as a not module, so npm run, and then you pass the path of the Vue CLI, and it's same, just the same.
Okay.
In this case, I have installed globally, and sorry. So, oops. If I type Vue, I get yeah some information, and for instance, I can check the version. So Vue version, and yeah, Vue CLI 4.5.6. So this is not Vue.js. This is the Vue CLI. So it's a tool for that helps you to use the yeah to work with Vue actually. Um, a way to create a new application is using the command app. So right now I will just go here. I'll just create a folder test. I don't want to mess with our folder, and I do view add. Oh, I think it's create. Yeah, sorry, it's not add, it's create. I have to change the readme. Create. I don't know. App one. Now the view live for you is yeah, guiding you through a process. You just have to answer some questions. So you can install Vue 2 with the basic configuration or Vue 3 with the basic configuration. Now we go through the manual configuration, since it's very important to see each step. What can we decide here? The Vue version, but we don't need it. We want to install the second one. Then Babel, and as you know, Babel is transpiling the modern JavaScript code to most compatible JavaScript code. We want to use it. TypeScript, it's important. It would be nice to have fun with TypeScript and Vue, but since we want to learn Vue, let's focus on the library and not on TypeScript. You can make it as a progressive web app. In future, we will do it. You can install the router or the store. Now we will not do it. We will edit them in the future. Any CSS preprocessor, the linter and formatter, and the unit test and the end-to-end test frameworks. So since that this is just step one, we want to keep Babel for transpiling our code, and the linter, since it's very important when you work with Vue that you use a style guide. It's really important to catch bug as soon as possible. So as soon as you do that. So second choice is what kind of linter do we want? That's up to you. I highly recommend ESLint plus Airbnb configuration. I think it's just very good, but my personal opinion. And as a feature, we want to lint and fix on save, not commit. Because when you write code, you want to see immediately if your code works or are some linter problems. You don't want to check at the end when you're committing maybe 10 files. So linter of save is way more better. Then the last question is, do you want to have all this configuration in a package.json or in different config files? I'm always for dedicated config files. So when you look at your project structure, you already know what you have there. So if you have Babel, ESLint, or other things. So you want to save this preset for future project? Well, we don't need it.
I have a question.
So, sure.
Mine asked me if I wanted to install version 2 or 3.
Yeah, because
which
now
one should I select?
I would recommend to use version 2 right now.
Okay.
Since the version 3 is pretty new.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this CLI is installing a stable version or not. Yeah, that's it. But
Okay.
in the next steps, in the next sessions, we will upgrade to version 3.
Cool.
So.
All right. So I will start with 2. Thank you.
Yep. Welcome. So yeah, CLI is working. It's pretty slow because we're streaming on Zoom. But now what is happening is installing all the dependencies. So now I will stop it, since that's just a test for us. And I will go back to beginner course and step 1. So check out step 1. So yeah, that's how the result will look like. And let's open it with Visual Code. So with a file system here. So this is the result of the Vue install. And let's go through file by file. I know it could be boring, but it's very important that you get your the project, so every single file. We have the node modules, and I'm sure you're familiar with them. And all those modules are needed by Vue to just work to Vue and Webpack. Then we have a public folder with the icon and some HTML. And this will be the template, the main template, which will contain your Vue.js application. So the Vue CLI is installing Webpack and Vue.js. So this part is for Vue.js. As you see, this is a normal HTML template. Plus, there's something important for Webpack. This tag here tells Webpack, hey, please put here the title of the page, and that's it. So this is what this file is doing. And then we have a source folder where we have the Vue core things. So usually a main.js, which is the first JavaScript file will be consumed by the application, and then one or more Vue templates. Then we have some assets, so CSS and images, and then all the configuration. So we have browser list, which is used from Babel for the browser compatibility. Then we have some configuration for the editor. Then the linter with the Vue Essential AMD style guide. So all the things that we selected during the Vue CLI process. A git ignore, since we don't want to commit or track all the debug, the log, and the node module things. And the Babel configuration for the transpiling process, and then the package.json, which is very important. Let's see what happened here. So we have basic information about our application. Then we have three basic scripts, which is serve, build, and lint. Those are ideas for the Vue CLI service, serve, build, and lint. The first one is building is starting Webpack, and it's building your application and providing a hot reload. So every time you change code, then Webpack will change live all the code and refresh the output in the browser. Then build will generate the final code into the dist folder. So when you run build, we'll create a dist folder and we'll put all the files you need. So the JavaScript, dependencies, CSS, everything compiled and ready to be deployed somewhere. And lint is linting your code. So your editor is doing it for you, but your code can also do it for you. And it's reading your code, processing it, applying the style guide, and if something is wrong, it will tell you. Then we have basic dependencies. In this case, we have also Tailwind CSS, since I used for some examples, but otherwise, we have CodeJourneys and Vue. And then our other data dependencies. It's about linting, about the CLI, and so on. And this is something we'll check later. And then a basic README file. And here you have just some information about how to start it, how to compile it, and how to run the linter. So that's it. And this is the outcome. We can try together to run it. And I just have to, I would like to show you this. So here we have just our app. Our app. So we will see later what template means, but the code that I added to this Vue.js file is just our app. So let's run it. npm run serve. npm run start. No. Where am I? Ah, I'm not in the folder. Yeah. So yeah. So now the CLI is starting Webpack and everything. And when it's done, if there are no errors, it tells you that you can visit the website and see the result. The result is our app. So now we're going to inspect this code. Let's make it bigger. And in this code, we have some meta tag. We have the title, and this looks like this file. Let me make it bigger so you can see. Yeah. So this looks exactly like this file, plus there are two new lines here. One is app.js and one is chuck vendors. What is this? This is added by the hidden configuration of Webpack and Vue. So what Webpack is doing is taking all the Vue.js things, it's building them together into files, app.js and chuck vendors, and is injecting those dependencies inside the HTML. And actually, that's it. Then the non-script part is here. And the div with ID app was empty. Now it's not empty anymore, but contains our app, which was content of our template. So now we'll see together what happened here. But just to show you that what happened between the code and the browser. So just this Webpack, it's compiling the code, injecting the code in the head, and then it's the code itself is taking the templates, building the output, HTML output, and filling the target div. So no magic. And yeah, so in order to work with the app, I prepared a template because I think it's nice to work with a nice template and not just with basic CSS and HTML. And I used Tailwind. I don't know if you know Tailwind. Let's go to step 2. So this is step 2. And step 2 is slightly different. In the app.js here, you will see a lot of code. So this is just HTML plus I'm using Tailwind for the style. So just a bunch of classes. HTML plus a lot of classes. Tailwind is not necessary for this project, so you don't have to know how these classes are working. But if you want to have a look at it's a cool library, so you can just Google it and see what it's about. So this is just HTML and here I added a tag which is called style and contains some style. So HTML plus style, and that's the result. So that code produces this kind of e-commerce like page. So we have some elements and a couple of effects, and is a bit responsive. Not much, but yeah, just a bit. Yeah, how I added this Tailwind, you will find, of course, in the step 2 section of the README file. I installed it through npm as a node module, and then we added this post css config, and that's also something basic. So in order to install Tailwind, you just have to export those plugins. So I wouldn't, yeah, say something more about it. And then we created a index CSS file. So in styles index, you have the 3 Tailwind pieces, let's say so, of this framework, base components and utilities. And then in order to make it visible to Vue.js, in the main JS, we added import index CSS. Yes, sorry. Ah, sorry. I thought someone wanted to say something. So yeah, since now the index CSS is here, is visible to Vue.js. If I remove it, then will not work since the CSS will not be visible. So let's now talk about what is this main JS. One of the hidden configuration, so if you use the Vue CLI, you don't have to configure it by yourself, but something that happens under the hood is that Webpack knows that the first file that has to render is or execute is main.js. So that's the entry file. And here you can bootstrap your application. So what's happening here? We are importing Vue, which is the Vue core library from Vue, which is a node module like any other library. Then we are importing the first component, which is app view. And app view is this one. So it's this component. And we are importing the CSS. We are disabling some tip in the console, something basic that comes with the Vue CLI. And then we are starting somehow the Vue application. So if we hide this, there's no Vue. So the file is there, but nothing is happening. So this is the responsible of everything. This new Vue, it's generating everything. And let's see what's doing. So this Vue is using this, is creating a new instance of Vue, and Vue is accepting some parents. So that's the Vue object, and here we can pass a configuration. Basic configuration is an object with a property render, which is the function that would be called to render the output. And yeah, the basic way to start the application is an arrow function, which gets the function h, which is the responsible of building the output, the HTML, and we pass there the first component we want to mount. So this comes out of the box. You don't have to type by yourself, but it's very important that you know what's happening here. So we say that when Vue wants to render something, has to take the function h, which is built in the library, and the first function, first template that has to build is the app. All the other components, and I'm sure you heard that you can have 1,000 components Vue, are belonging to app. So app is doing the same thing of this Vue library. So it's containing children, and children are containing children, and so on. But everything starts from a starting point, which is the parent template. Then the result, because this will result in an output, so in a bunch of HTML and JavaScript, will be mounted, which is another function coming from the library, where in any HTML tag, which has ID app. So that's why in the app view, sorry, that's why in the yeah, HTML here, we have ID app. If we don't have ID app here, then the output of the Vue library, all the process will not be rendered here. And that's also why we have in the template, again, our ID app. So in this case, it's a static public file, and that's the dynamic created by the template. So if I change the ID of this div and I refresh, and I also change this, yeah, it's white. It's white because Vue.js can't find ID of the target app, target div, and can't change the content. So what's doing inside is changing the inner HTML of this tag. So I think it's very important to know it because it's part of the magic, and we don't want to think that the framework are doing something very special, because otherwise we can't catch the bugs. We want to know what's happening there. So what's happening in the main.js, some point is doing like document get element by ID app, and then inner HTML equal to the content. The content of what? Of the Vue app, of the Vue process. Sorry, any question? No. Okay, so this is the Vue, the main JS. And now let's see the app view. So there are many ways of writing Vue components. And everything in Vue.js is a component. And there are functional components and components with a template. So the components are just JavaScript code, and they have no output, or the output is something that they handle through a JavaScript function. But we have also some templates, some component that have another way of writing the HTML, and is using the template tag. So what Vue.js does, when it gets this file, knows that everything that is inside the template will be parsed through the h function, and all the variables will be replaced with values, and the output will be rendered in the app div. And then we have a second part, which is the JavaScript part of the component. And then we have the third part, which is the style, where we have just CSS. So at the end, we'll take the CSS and we'll put in the CSS vendor file. We'll take the JavaScript and will be part of the JavaScript, and the template will be compiled and rendered, and yeah, and all the functions inside would be replaced with some meaningful value. Think about everything is a function here. So even if we split this component in template, scripts, and CSS, actually is a function. And even this div, the first div will be kind of function. So everything contains other components. And Vue.js has to go through all this chain of components, and will take the last one, so the deepest one, will solve all the dependencies, all the values and everything, and then we'll create a HTML output would be passed to the parent. And this process will happen again, until the first parent, and then at the end will be just rendered in the index.html file. And that's very important to understand. And what's happening in this template, it's controlled by this JavaScript file. Here also we have many ways of writing this JavaScript. Can be a class, can be an object, it can be, you can use TypeScript, many ways. But at the end, we have many ways, because at the end, everything will be compiled, transpiled into the same thing. So this is just for us. But at the end, will just be a JavaScript function and just a huge string of HTML. So no difference between them. We have some conventions or some properties that that are mandatory. And the first one is the name of the component. So when you define a name of the component, like as a property, then when you will use the Vue.js, I don't have here, the Vue.js plugin for Firefox or Chrome, you can inspect the code and you will see the name of the component there. So each component must have a name. And then components have already, let's say, a lot of properties. So it's not just, you can't write an object or a class as you want. There are already some rules and some callbacks and some API. And we will discover them together. So now let's switch to the step 3. And step 3, yeah, we just work together here. And in the README file, I wrote, but it didn't push. So let's take it back. So step 3. Okay. We'll have a look at the conditional rendering, list of elements, event handling, and class style. So yeah, so as I told you, even if this is HTML, it's not pure HTML, because this HTML will be parsed by the Vue core library. So you can write something that doesn't belong to HTML, but belongs to Vue.js. And this will be parsed before Vue.js will create the output. There are some rules. First rule is each template can contain just one root element. So if I create 2 elements, no matter what, can be a span, can be a div, can be anything. The linter, and that's why the linter is very important, will tell you that the template root requires exactly 1 element. Why? Because I told you that everything is a matter of a chain of parent and children. And you can have a kind of fork, you can have 2 different roots. And each template is just 1 root. So we need 1 element. And inside element, let's see what kind of features we have. So we have an e-commerce, and I wrote here all the elements by myself, and we want to avoid this. So we want to create a list. The first thing we'll get to know from Vue.js, it's the data object. So the data object is a property of the component, and it must be a function. We can use an arrow function since we don't need the context. And there are no args. So this function is returning an object. And just using the syntax because I think it's pretty cool. But it's returning an object. An object, and this object can contain any data you want. So we can have, I don't know, title, and then can be a nice title. This object, it's here when we create it is a normal object. But since it will be part of the data, then it will get all the benefits of data handled by Vue.js. It means it will be reactive. Not only reactive, it will be also visible everywhere in the template. If here you create a new property, which is like, I don't know, foobar, you can do it since it's JavaScript. This object will have property foo equal to bar, but the library will not see it. Vue.js will not just care. If you want to use the power of Vue.js, then you need to pass those values inside data. And important to remember, that's very important to remember, data are initialized on component level. So once Vue.js loads the component, then creates the data object and make that data object available to the template, not before. In the next sessions, you will find out why it's so important. Once you create a function here, a property here, you can use in the template. Let's take the first product title. So now I just change it and I show you that. Yep, that we are changing this one. And the convention of accessing the data properties is using there's two brackets. So you don't have to use this. You can use this, but it's already in the scope. So it's fine if you use just the property that you pass the data. And if you need to refresh this, we are serving with the ViewCLI. The title here is the one we added here. Sorry, it's very long, this code. A nice title. So we can do another nice title, and we can put it here, two brackets. Oh, I did something wrong. And another nice title. So it's also visible here. And as I told you, if you write something outside, like here, hello world, and you go here, try to type hello, it will not work. Cool. So we don't have to create just a string. We can even create an array. We keep the an object as a response of data, since at the end data is an object, but inside we can create whatever we want. So let's create products, for instance. Products it's an array, and it's an array of objects. And this array of object has our title, product title, then as a description, and I will take from here. And price. And I have two tags here. So let's create tags, which is an array. We can do summer and winter. Okay, this represents the product, and we create a list of three. Also an image, sorry. I'm using those kind of names, so pick plus number for the images. So we can create here the image, and we do pick 1, pick 2, and pick 3. Okay. So now we have a bunch of products, and yeah, we can delete actually all those products here. We can just keep one product. So I will delete all the other products. Let's see if I deleted too much. I guess so. Yeah, now we have just two, and let's remove the second one. Okay, now we have just one template of a product, and our goal is to represent here, show here all the products we have in the array. So I'm going to print products. Linter is complaining that I'm using not the right spaces. Okay, so I just print out here the content of products, which is an array. For test purposes, you can use the tag pre, and it's formatting all the content in a nice way. It's not nice to debug in a template, but sometimes it's cool to see what kind of data you have. And now we have to do a loop and yeah, and just use this template for all the products we have. So the first directive we use is the v4. So this is the main div. Yeah, it's this one. And yeah, we can use v4. V4, as you imagine, is creating a loop, and it's creating, it loops an iterable object, and in this case, an array. And of product. In the README file, I already created here an example. Oh, sorry. And what are we telling now to Vue.js in this with this code is, okay, now you have to repeat this template, the template which contains before, for each element contained in products. And inside the template, the target element will be contained in the property, in the value product. So it's something like let and then for in JavaScript. But for Vue.js, we use this directive here. And just this doesn't work. So we need some information, more information. One thing that v4 needs, it's a key. And now we see how we pass information to the tag in Vue.js. When it's a compiled information, the property need a prefix, which is a column. This one means the value we'll pass here is not just a value, but you have to compile it. So it's like JavaScript. So I can do, like, the value of key in this case would be 2. But if I remove the column, the value of the key in this case will be 1 plus 1. So this string. And one thing that the v4 needs, it's a unique key for each element. And it needs it because Vue.js needs to track all the tags in order to update it, in order to make them reactive. So Vue.js needs to give a name to each component you want to access and update later. So in order to have a key, we have a lot of ways to do it. One way could be to use the title. So this is the basic syntax for v4. So a 4 plus a key, and it's already working. And we have 3 elements here. Why I use product? Because I say that I want to each element of products inside product. I could use even P, but it doesn't make sense. It's more descriptive. And another thing we can do in the Vue4, exactly like in JavaScript, instead of having just a variable, we can have actually two. So we can split them in this way. And in this way, there's just a syntax to say, please put in product each element of products and in index the index of the product. That's just a syntax. So there's no explanation. And once you have the index, for instance, you can use it here to say, that's the key 1, for instance. So the first time would be key 1, then key 2, then key 3. I can use the template editor since I have column here. So this works. If I remove it, it will say, sorry, it doesn't work because you have 3 times the same index. Then let's update also the other params. So we make the source property compiled, so JavaScript. And since it's JavaScript, we can use our syntax. I don't know if I use pic or image. Image, cool. Let's see why it doesn't work. Products pick 1. Okay, this is work because of the path. So for the moment, I will not change it, and we will do it when we will see how the path is working. So pick 1. But we can continue with the title. So we have product title. And we have a product description. So also the product description, the description is working. Then we have the tags. And cool thing, tags, if you remember, are array. So we have to use a v4 again. So what we can do, create a new v4, and the v4 will be tag index in product.tag tags. Yeah. And as you already know, we need a key. And the key will be maybe tag and then index. Yeah. And maybe we want to have here like the tag index and here just the main index. And maybe we want to call the tags with a special name. So tag dash index dash tag index. So we avoid the multiple tags have the same key. And then, so we have the for, we have the tag. Yeah, now we just need the tag. So it's not an object. And then we can remove. So we have a v4, and inside the v4, we have another v4. The last one is the price. Space is not locked. Cool. So yeah, we have a list of products, and we are showing the products inside the template using v4 and yeah, twice. Yeah, I planned just 1 hour, and yeah, according to your feedback, 1 hour is always enough. So I want to show you more, but yeah, maybe we talked a lot about the first part, but I thought it was important because one problem I always see when other people are using those frameworks, maybe even after 1 year, after 2 years, that they skip the first part. And first of all, it's very important for the interviews. And once I failed an interview, because they ask me what is the age function, and then I said I never opened that file. I mean, I never asked myself what is it, since it was created by Vue.js and you never change it. And so yeah, it was frustrating. So yeah, now I'm really trying to understand and read each line and each part of the configuration, since it's where you fix most of the bugs. I will push this code and you will find it in step 3. We'll do it right now. Step 3 and then git push. So if you want to check it, you can check it. And in the README, you will find also other information like vif, vshow, and yeah, basically those two, and then some events. If you have already experience with Vue.js and you want to play with it, you can use my template and play with those things. For instance, an exercise you can do is you can add another price, like discount price, in the app view, like this, discount price, and yeah, and maybe if I say discount price, you want to write a discount price and remove the original price. It's just an idea. Or yeah, you can add products, or maybe you can have no products, and when you have no products, you want to show a message like, sorry, no product available. I know it's not enough, but yeah, start, and next time we'll do any other things. Questions or feedback or anything you want?
I have a question, but it's
Yeah, sure.
a little bit weird. Okay, so somehow when I went through like the Vue CLI and I selected all the same options as you, it like did something with the linting where it would change my commas like to be my talking marks to be like single ones went to double, and then it removed parentheses.
Yeah.
And then when I ran it, it
I know.
it broke the serve. And then I was like, what have I done? And I couldn't work out how to remove it. Or
no,
what?
it's normal. It's normal. It's yeah, it's one of the problem because actually you usually you have lint with lint and preter, and both are following two different kind of rules, and this is a matter of VS Code configuration. So you have to go in the VS Code configuration. I will send you or publish an article later. And if you go in the real configuration, you will see that you have, for instance, if you have Vector, the plugin for VS Code, you have to tell Vector if as you use ESLint or Pretia, when, and for instance, I'm telling Vector not to using the Pretia for the template, but yes for the lint. I mean, you have to play with it, and then you have to tell VS Code just to use one configuration. So if you have many problems, maybe in the workspace you can disable Pretia.
And how do I do? You know how I do this?
In the extensions plugin here. You can,
because like normally my prettier and linting is fine, and it was just now that it changed, and when it changed, then it was causing errors.
Yeah, actually it's changed. So then it's here, and yeah, there's a way to add
Maybe I
plugin
just need to
Predia.
do
I will send you an article. So here you have to
Okay,
add
that'd be
a
great.
plugin with Predia, and
Uh-huh.
ESLint will know that something has to delegate to Predia and other things to ESLint. But the most common problem I have really very often is that you type one quote and you save and it's changing and changing back again and saying it's a mistake. And then you fix it and it's creating the
Yeah.
problem again. Yeah, and that's a conflict because sometimes the Predia want to have single quote and maybe ESLint double quote. So that's
Okay.
very, very normal.
Okay,
It's
thanks.
very normal. Yeah, and matter of VS Code configuration. Yeah,
All right.
and that's it. So I
But
sent you
yeah,
the.
thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you for the
Welcome.
thank you for the introduction to Vue.
But-
I know that stuff, so I look forward to the next
Yeah.
lessons.
Yeah.
But it was good to refresh the introduction. So thank you.
Yeah, more about this reactivity thing, for instance, and if the libraries are maintained or not. That's very important in interview, for instance.
Yeah.
They always ask me, and I always ask about this thing because it's very important. So boring but important. So thank you,
Cool.
thank you all, and yeah, I think we'll do it again in 1 week, maybe Tuesday and Wednesday again.
Yeah.
1 hour, 1.5 hour, and yeah, then we will do cool stuff.
Sweet.
Thanks.
So thank you for feedback. As always, you have the link in the chat, and have fun. Feel free to fork the project and add stuff, and also play with Tailwind CSS. It's very a nice library. I never used it, and I'm really in love with it. So
Yeah,
like
it's really fun.
it took me like 20 minutes to do this template, and I said, well, okay, I will never write any CSS anymore. So
Cool.
have a nice evening.
All right. Thank you. You too. See you guys.
Welcome.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.